Hello, it's nice to be here. I'm Dr. Rebecca Reynolds. Welcome to a Reynolds Provisions publication titled Developmentally Appropriate Practice. Every good training or educational experience needs learning objectives that align with the material and the assessments to be complete. The learning objectives here define you as student. So if I were to read this clearly, simply exchange the word student with your name or the word I. For example, the first objective could be read as I will be able to describe all three components: development, appropriate, and practice. With this as an objective, the student, meaning you of course, should expect this training to include material describing all three components: development, appropriate, and practice. You can also expect to have an assessment at the end of the training that gives you an opportunity to describe development, appropriate, and practice. Notice that each objective is written as a statement of fact that students, meaning you, will be able to do something when the training is complete. The wording in objectives is important. As a teacher yourself, think about how you will apply learning objectives into your own classroom. When writing your learning objectives for your lessons, be aware of where your current students are in their development and educational level. We can read learning objective 2 as I will be able to define developmentally appropriate practice as a whole term. Just exchanging the word I as you did in the first objective. Throughout this presentation, together we will discuss the definition of developmentally appropriate practice and how to apply it into our learning environments. Breaking the term developmentally appropriate practice into individual words, we can find the definition of the term as shown in this roadmap and further into the training. Development will be explained by describing the stages of children's development patterns as described by Erik Erikson. In the appropriateness topic, we will discuss what are subtle expectations and planned activities for the stages described by Erikson. Finally, the practice topic. We will discuss applying this developmentally appropriate information into planning, creating measurable objectives, and the implementation of those plans. Child development has many theorists who have done some significant work on different domains of development. Each theorist describes formats of development, some in stages and others as holistic. Erik Erikson, one of those development experts, outlined 8 stages of development spanning a lifetime. Take special note to the VS, meaning verses, in between the contradictory explanations. This shows that Erikson highlights the possible internal struggle each person should be expected to grow through as they develop. My favorite example of this is the first stage, trust versus mistrust. A newborn communicates through reflex response and crying. As they grow slowly older, they will point, grunt, and make whatever sounds to get attention. This eventually increases to include understandable linguistic patterns if hearing is fully intact. Stage 1 is heavily influenced by the responses of those around. Taking into mind this first step explained by Erikson, think about what an infant will learn if they cry out of hunger and they are not fed when hungry. In this stage, they either learn to trust or not to trust. Within this theory, the infants learn about trust is through the immediate reaction of caretakers. As infants grow, you will notice they develop an ability to gain your attention through different means. Some infants will scream or make silly sounds, drop or throw things, etc. This shows them growing into the next stage of development, autonomy versus shame. By gaining your attention, they succeed at learning They have an influence on your behavior. This will begin to earn different responses from you. In stage 2, the reactions of the attached adults will also impact whether a child develops shame or doubt or autonomy. Children will naturally explore the environment. To learn about their environment, they will begin moving around, exploring, climbing, falling, touching, tasting. This behavior can be seen as inappropriate by some adults. But children don't know what is appropriate or not appropriate until they are taught. If a child at this stage of development is controlled through shame, this child is apt to be ashamed of himself. If a child is taught to safely navigate their own curiosity, the child will learn autonomy. Autonomy is what we want for our children. This includes the ability to self-motivate and self-regulate. When a toddler learns autonomy, they can safely move into the next step, initiative versus guilt. On the other hand, if a child learns shame and doubt, this child will be challenged in the next step. It will be very difficult for this child not to end the next step in guilt. A child who learns in step 2 that exploration is safe and they can trust their environment and adult caretakers, taking initiative for more exploration will automatically happen. The second and third steps of Erikson's stages is the core of setting a self-esteem into the right direction. When reaching the fourth step, industry versus inferiority, grade school children are struggling between learning they have purpose or not have purpose. It may be an unspoken need, but this is when children need to know when the adults in their lives approve of their work. It is key to observe and pay special attention to our students who shy away. Giving the shy students a chance to be heard and seen can be a big, uplifting experience. By giving this type of experience, educators can prevent students from feeling inferior. When a student feels inferior, the struggle of role confusion in the next step will most likely be prevalent. While our students begin early adolescence, you will notice your students asking questions about family history and inquiry into why a person does something. When children at this stage begin inquiring into family identity and self-identity, they are looking for a place to fit in or be part of a group, be it family or friends. Relationship building at this stage is vital to academic success. This includes relationships with educators. Through the give and take of conversation, students at this stage will slowly self-discover their role or roles into the lives of the people in their own lives. Without steady and supportive relationships, these students will begin to struggle with their own identity and their role within their immediate community. If they are not able to find a place to belong, they will begin the next step with little intimacy and have greater chance of struggle with isolation. As young adults, our students still need to have social ties to others to grow through Erikson stages effectively. The struggle for young adults, according to Erikson, is an inner battle between intimacy and isolation. Rejection from others at this point in development can lead to significant issues with isolation. As we encourage our students to develop through their lifespan, we need to ensure that we are giving of ourselves in social, emotional, effective ways to ensure that we encourage positive growth, giving our students tools for future success. We could ask ourselves, what does it mean to be appropriate? If we take the development of each child into account when planning, we will be able to reach each child's needs. For example, in Erikson Stage 1, the infancy period of trust versus mistrust, playing the simple game of peekaboo teaches the infant that even though the infant is not able to see you hiding, you are still there. Teaching this can help lead to the infant learning to trust. In Erikson Stage 2, early childhood period of autonomy versus shame and doubt, by giving specific feedback when a child brings you a creation of their own making, encourages that child to keep trying on their own. Or by ignoring that creation, or by giving only negative feedback, shame and doubt could be reinforced. A child who feels continually shamed may eventually give up instead of trying. In Erikson Stage 3, the play age period of initiative versus guilt. The teacher or parent can increase initiative by calmly communicating with children when they make a mistake or do something considered inappropriate. This communication could lead the child through questions that assist in finding a solution on his own. When the adult in charge instead either blames the child or does not assist, letting the child to assume the worst can create a sense of guilt that will impact their social emotional development. In stage 4, children learn either to be industrious or feel inferior. The feedback of educators in a child's life can have a huge impact on their continual education prospects. As this pictorial shows, being positive, giving positive, specific feedback, and giving encouragement impacts our students for their lifetimes. When working on how to practice DAP, developmentally appropriate practice, we must consider how to approach the children to inspire them into learning. A step needed is observation. The goal of observation is finding the needs of the children, the learning needs. Observation being a topic all its own can be a topic for another time. Once those needs are assessed through observation, we can begin planning our measurable learning objectives. As you can see here, I use the simple sentence starter. Students will be able to. Marked in red. This sentence starter helps me to remember that objectives need to be clear, precise, and lead to the ending expectation of the planned activity. The next thing to notice is how each objective can be measurable. The print in blue says 1 time and 15 minutes. The easiest way to have a measurable objective is to place a numerical value, such as this, into your objective. What makes these objectives developmentally appropriate is the matching of the objective with the current developmental stage of the children the objectives are meant for. For example, if Stephanie is only 4 weeks old, should you expect her to be able to move the blanket and reveal the ball on her own? Or if Stephanie were 5 years old, should you expect Stephanie to have already accomplished reading at a 5th grade level? When planning, educators need to consider each individual child. This is differentiation. Of course, we want a safe place for children to learn. Planning for this also needs to be a priority. This includes making sure that children feel safe while in your care. I think the hardest part for most educators is planning with differentiation. When differentiation is used, the teacher meets the developmental needs of every student, rather than the classroom as a whole. Differentiation is typically required for children with special needs. However, as teachers progress in experience, they learn how to use differentiation to reach individual students in their class. Make sure to check their classroom toys and supplies for safety. For example, buttons may be developmentally appropriate for 5-year-olds to play with, but if a toddler picks up a button, that toddler can possibly choke on that button. As their developmental level, toddlers will typically place things into their mouth. One nice thing to mention is that the typical setup of the early childhood classroom with learning centers gives automatic differentiation. There is also classroom setup called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, for example. If children love music, setting up a music center for them to explore will encourage them to learn. If you have students who love watching the bugs and the birds, you can plan to have those children take care of a class pet. This is a great science activity. Differentiation with the development level of your students in mind may be as simple as keeping similar age groups together. However, there will be times when students of similar age groups have different levels of needs. For example, you may have a student who is not able to use mathematical equations at grade level. But you know this child loves music. Bringing musical lessons into your classroom that includes counting music will help to inspire this student to participate in math. One thing to mention is that the typical setup of the early childhood classroom with learning centers gives automatic differentiation. This means that every learning style is presented, giving every child the ability to learn. By experimenting with classroom setup, we can use our environment to set up learning enrichment activities for developmentally appropriate, independent, and teacher-led learning experiences. The Learning Center idea has proven to be effective for just about every age, from early childhood through high school, especially those students who learn in non-traditional ways or have special needs that aren't reached by traditional education classrooms. What is considered a traditional classroom is desks lined in a row. They had their place during the Industrial Revolution during the turn of the 19th century. After centuries of research in human development and educational practice, we can move forward with confidence, reaching every learning style. The picture to your right is a typical map of an early childhood classroom. The different areas labeled, well, they include each table, activity rug, supply shelves, and growing plants, and they're all set up for self-exploration. This classroom is developmentally appropriate for children ages 3 through 6. While the classroom on the left has learning centers, such as computers, student tables, shelf supplies, these are considered developmentally appropriate for children ages 5 through 12. Each place labeled, be it table, computer, activity rug, well, they're considered learning centers. Each learning center needs to be set up with the development of every child in the class. Teachers can set up their rooms to meet the needs of individual students by following a regular routine and, well, being ever present to assist in independent learning. The teacher will encourage students to learn problem-solving skills while increasing their abilities in fundamentals such as math and reading. Erik Erikson is one of the development experts who outlines 8 stages of development spanning the entire lifetime. This understanding can be used while assessing children. For an extreme example, you wouldn't want to ask a 5-year-old to read something meant for a high school student. Educators need to ensure that each child's development is considered when assessing their educational progress. As we encourage our students to develop throughout their lifespan, we need to ensure that we are giving of ourselves in social, emotional, effective ways to ensure that we encourage positive growth, giving our students tools needed for future success. This includes assessments that are designed to be accommodating to each student's needs. So to conclude, we learned several things today. We learned that the definition of developmentally appropriate practice means meeting the needs of children where they are in their developmental level while we plan, implement our plan, and assess. We broke the term developmentally appropriate practice down, letting us find the definition of the term. Development was explained by describing the stages of children's developmental patterns as described by Erik Erikson. Appropriateness was discussed as suitable expectations and planned activities for the stages described by Erikson. Finally, in the practice topic, we discussed applying developmentally appropriate information into planning, creating an appropriate environment, and the implementation of your plans. The next slide gives you information on how to obtain a certificate for the time you spent on learning this new information. What you see here is an opportunity to receive a certificate. Once you have earned your certificate, an electronic version will be emailed to you with directions on how to obtain a paper copy with seal of completion. Please be sure to note, to gain a training certificate with no charge, you must be accepted into the Reynolds Provisions Scholarship Program. For more information about this, please email us at rr@reynoldsprovisions.org. The following page will give you journal directions and your assessment questions to complete to gain your certificate if you so choose. I look forward to working with you to improve the lives of our children and our families. Once you complete the journal entry and assessment questions, email them to me at rr@reynoldsprovisions.org. Please allow us up to 45 days to respond. Each person has up to 5 attempts to pass with 90% or better. Upon completion, if 90% is not reached, an email response will be sent with directions on next steps to take. Once a person passes, a certificate will be emailed. If you prefer a paper certificate, directions will be sent to you on how to gain this. Thank you so much for your time. Please feel free to email me with any questions you may have. I look forward to hearing from you.